Have you ever noticed how the people who seem to attract the most respect, peace, and influence are often the ones who appear least attached to any of it? They walk into a room without needing to prove anything, speak without rushing to be heard, and walk away without fear of what they might lose. It's as if they hold some invisible power that draws the world to them, without ever chasing it. That power, my friend, is detachment. Not indifference, not coldness, but mastery over one's desires, impulses, and emotional dependencies. The Stoics knew this secret well. They called it apatheia, a state of being unshaken by the storms of fortune or misfortune. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he reminded himself each morning that everything he held dear could be taken away. Seneca amassed wealth, yet he practiced living in poverty to remind himself it never owned him. Epictetus was born a slave, yet he taught that freedom begins in the mind. What they all shared was a profound understanding. The less you cling to life, the more freely and powerfully you live it. Detachment isn't about giving up. It's about showing up without the weight of needing a specific outcome. It's about loving without possession, leading without ego, and acting without fear. When you stop depending on things outside your control, people's approval, money, fame, even health, you begin to unlock a calm power that others can't help but notice. Because in a world where everyone is chasing, the one who stands still becomes magnetic. But make no mistake, this is not easy. We're wired to grasp, to cling, to fear loss. It takes daily discipline to train the mind away from dependency. It begins with awareness, observing your reactions when things don't go your way, when someone criticizes you, when you don't get what you expected. Most people spiral. The Stoic? He returns to himself. He sees the event not as a loss, but as a test, an opportunity to sharpen his freedom from need. Imagine you're holding a handful of sand. The tighter you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. But if you open your hand, soft, steady, it stays. This is detachment. Not withdrawal from life, but a wiser way to hold it. You begin to choose your battles. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. You stop needing people to get you. You act not from insecurity, but from principle. You become harder to offend, easier to trust, and more resilient under pressure. This is what gives rise to the kind of strength that doesn't shout, but stands like a mountain. You see, the paradox is real. Let go, and you gain control. Expect nothing, and you receive everything. Need less, and you attract more. The Stoics weren't just surviving hardship, they were mastering the art of inner wealth. So, ask yourself, what are you clinging to right now? An identity? A relationship? A dream that isn't aligned with who you're becoming? The more tightly you hold it, the more it controls you. But if you can loosen that grip, even a little, you'll feel something unexpected, clarity. And with that clarity comes power. The power to say no. The power to walk away. The power to remain calm when others panic. Because your happiness no longer hinges on the temporary, it comes from within. This is what detachment truly is. Not emptiness, but fullness without dependence. Stillness without stagnation. Strength without noise. The Stoic lives not by renouncing the world, but by no longer being ruled by it. And it's in that quiet mastery that real influence begins. He doesn't seek to impress, and yet others are drawn to him. He doesn't argue to win, and yet his words carry weight. He doesn't chase after opportunity, it seems to find him. Why? Because the detached person radiates something the world rarely sees: inner security. When people sense that you don't need their approval, they begin to respect you. When they see that you can walk away from comfort or chaos alike, they start to follow you. Detachment, then, is not weakness, it's leadership. It's the rare ability to stand grounded while others sway in every direction. In a time where people wear their emotions like open wounds, your calm presence becomes medicine. But detachment doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you feel fully, without being enslaved by what you feel. The Stoic grieves without being shattered. He celebrates without becoming addicted to pleasure. He commits without being possessed by outcome. That's what makes him so steady. His strength lies not in repression, but in refinement. Epictetus once said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them." The detached mind trains itself to see events not as personal attacks or rewards, but as neutral occurrences. He doesn't drown in misfortune, nor does he lose himself in success. Both are passing clouds. His clarity comes from knowing that what is within his control is limited, but powerful. His thoughts, his actions, his response. Detachment brings an unexpected reward, joy. Not the euphoric kind that spikes and crashes, but the stable, lasting kind that emerges when you're no longer a hostage to outcomes. You laugh more freely. You live more fully. You stop waiting for something to happen to feel complete, because you already are. And here's the true beauty of it: detachment doesn't isolate you from life. It deepens your experience of it. You become more present, not less. More attentive, not aloof. You begin to listen without the urge to reply, love without fear of loss, work without obsessing over results. You begin to show up as you are, because you no longer wear masks for approval. Most people believe that the key to happiness is gaining more things, more validation, more control. The Stoic sees the opposite. Real peace is subtraction. It's the ability to strip away what is unnecessary so what is essential can finally be seen. So the next time you feel the urge to control, to cling, to react, pause. Step back. Breathe. Remind yourself, nothing outside of you is truly yours. You can enjoy it, you can cherish it, but you cannot possess it. And in releasing that illusion, you unlock something rare, the unshakable energy of a free man. He who needs nothing commands everything. And this freedom, it's not loud. It doesn't come dressed in pride or wrapped in declarations. It arrives quietly, like the silence after a storm. It's in how you respond to conflict with calm instead of chaos. How you walk away from drama without needing the last word. How you let go of what's no longer serving you, without mourning what was never meant to stay. Freedom through detachment is not a life of cold distance, it is a life of deep presence. Because when you are no longer driven by fear or need, you begin to see clearly. People, places, and events lose their ability to manipulate you. And in that clarity, you finally discover truth, not just about the world, but about yourself. The truth that you were never your titles, your wealth, or even your reputation. That none of those things define you, they only decorate you. The essence of who you are lies beneath them, untouched by gain or loss. And the only way to find it is to let go. This is why the Stoics practiced poverty, fasted voluntarily, wrote about death, not out of self-punishment, but to break the illusion of control. Because when you look death in the eye, you stop fearing trivial things. When you sleep on the floor though you have a bed, you stop obsessing over comfort. When you practice doing without, you realize how little you actually need. And that realization? It makes you fearless. Because the man who can walk away from anything is the one who can be trusted with everything. He's not owned by pleasure or crippled by pain. He doesn't fall apart when abandoned, nor lose himself when praised. He stands rooted, not in arrogance, but in alignment. This is the essence of Stoic mastery. Detachment is not escape. It is engagement without entanglement. It is love without chains. Work without desperation. Success without ego. You become like the archer who, having let the arrow fly, no longer worries where it lands, because he knows he aimed with clarity. His part is done. The rest he releases. This is the philosophy of peace. This is how you rise above the noise. And ironically, the more you release, the more life flows to you. People trust the calm in your voice. Opportunities arrive without you chasing. Relationships deepen because they are not based on possession, but on presence. You no longer beg life to behave a certain way. You meet it as it is, and you shape your path not through resistance, but through discipline and grace. This is how the Stoic leads. Not with force, but with example. Not through control, but through calm. And every step of detachment brings him closer to the life most people are still trying to buy, impress, or demand their way into. The life of someone who has mastered himself. He doesn't speak often, but when he does, people listen, not because he raises his voice, but because his words are rooted in stillness. He doesn't flaunt strength, but it's felt in every step he takes. This quiet authority, this centered power, is not taught in schools. It is cultivated in silence, through practice, through hardship, and through letting go. Every time he releases the need to win, he becomes more dangerous, not in aggression, but in calm influence. Every time he walks away from validation, he becomes harder to manipulate. And every time he chooses clarity over comfort, discipline over desire, he steps deeper into that rare kind of leadership, the kind that inspires without command, that changes rooms without needing to dominate them. The world is loud with demands. It says you must want more, prove more, be more. But the Stoic stands apart. He listens to a quieter voice, an internal compass unmoved by the noise. While others scramble to secure their worth through titles or applause, he secures his worth in character. While others chase comfort, he sharpens his edge. While others react, he reflects. This is not weakness. It's the deepest form of control. Not of others, but of oneself. And that is the foundation of all power worth having. Think about it. Who do you remember most? The one who needed your approval, or the one who didn't care whether he had it or not? Who left the lasting impression? The one who chased attention, or the one who remained composed, complete, even in silence? That's the magnetism of detachment. You cannot fake it. You cannot force it. It must be lived, breath by breath, choice by choice. When you're overlooked, you let it pass. When you're praised, you let it pass. When you're misunderstood, you don't rush to explain. Because your peace is no longer at the mercy of opinion. And in that space, where most are reactive, you become deliberate. You respond, rather than react. You pause before speaking. You walk away when needed, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. You choose not to engage in every battle, because not every battle is worthy of your energy. Detachment gives you that discernment. It makes your presence feel like a refuge, not because you try, but because you are anchored. You no longer seek to be impressive. You simply aim to be real, and in a world full of masks, that alone is powerful. Continue from here. Do not end the story. And slowly, without even trying, your life becomes a quiet revolution. Not by shouting slogans, but by living differently. People will ask how you stay so calm when everything around you is falling apart. How you stay kind when others are cruel. How you move forward when others are stuck in bitterness. And you won't have a rehearsed answer. You'll simply know. Because you've let go of the need to control what isn't yours to control. You've learned to surrender, not in weakness, but in strength. You've tasted the rare peace that comes when your happiness is no longer held hostage by things that can be taken away. This is what true freedom looks like, not a life without problems, but a life where problems no longer define you. Where challenges are faced without panic. Where success is received without arrogance. Where failure is accepted without shame. You become a student of life, not its victim. And when others come to you, tired, scattered, broken by expectations, they won't ask for advice. They'll simply want to be near you. Because your detachment doesn't feel like distance. It feels like depth. It's not that you've stopped caring. It's that you care wisely, without losing yourself in the process. You can love someone fully and still let them walk away. You can pour yourself into your work without being destroyed if it fails. You can show up in life completely, without needing to grip it so tightly that it breaks. That's the paradox of detachment. It allows you to engage with life more honestly, more bravely, and more fully. Because you're no longer serving your ego. You're no longer imprisoned by fear. You are finally free to be. Free to listen. Free to speak. Free to walk away. Free to stay without attachment. Free to feel without drowning. You become what the world has forgotten how to be. Calm in chaos, generous in scarcity, soft yet immovable. You become the person others quietly admire but can't quite explain. Because your power doesn't announce itself, it's felt. You no longer search for peace. You are peace. And all of it began the moment you chose to let go. And because you are peace, you no longer crave the illusions of power, the noise of constant achievement, or the shallow highs of attention. Your presence does the speaking. It says, I am whole. I have nothing to prove, nothing to chase, and nothing to run from. That energy is unmistakable. It shifts conversations. It dissolves conflict. It grounds everyone around you, even if they don't understand why. The Stoic doesn't detach to escape life. He detaches to live it more truthfully. He refuses to be owned by what's temporary, because he knows the only lasting freedom is inner freedom. And that's not something you find. It's something you forge, moment by moment, breath by breath. You'll feel the tests come. Someone will try to provoke you, and the old version of you will itch to react. But now there's a pause, a stillness, a second thought. You'll recognize that anger is just your ego begging for control. That anxiety is your attachment clinging to what might never happen. That pain is not the problem. It's the resistance to pain that hurts the most. And slowly, detachment becomes second nature. You don't suppress your emotions. You witness them. You let them pass like waves, no longer needing to surf or drown. You'll realize that peace is not a place you visit, but a skill you practice. And that practice, quiet, humble, disciplined, becomes your way of life. You stop explaining yourself to people who only want to misunderstand you. You stop arguing with those addicted to noise. You start preserving your energy like a sacred flame, because you now understand how rare it is to burn without consuming yourself. And with this flame, you walk through life differently. Not rushed. Not restless. But present. You work because you love the process, not just the reward. You serve others without expecting anything in return. You rise after loss not because you're numb, but because you're grounded. You laugh more freely, because your joy is no longer conditional. This is the unspoken art of detachment. It cannot be packaged. It cannot be sold. It is earned in the invisible battles you win within, the temptations you resist, the storms you endure, the pride you release, the peace you protect. And in that quiet space where most people chase, you rest. You begin to realize that much of what you once pursued was noise, an echo of other people's desires, not your own. The opinions, the status symbols, the approval you craved, they lose their shine. And in their place, something rare begins to emerge, clarity. You no longer ask, what do they think of me? But instead, what do I think of myself? That shift changes everything. Because once you stop chasing validation, you start living in alignment. You start choosing what nourishes you, not what impresses others. You dress not to be seen, but to feel at ease in your own skin. You speak not to dominate, but to illuminate. Your actions become rooted, not in reaction, but in intention. This is the detachment that makes the Stoic so powerful. He's not avoiding life, he's seeing through it. He knows how little is truly needed for contentment, and how much energy is wasted on illusions. So he conserves his time, sharpens his focus, and protects his soul. And because he does not need attention, he gains influence. Because he does not need to win, he cannot be manipulated. Because he does not fear solitude, he cannot be controlled. This man, detached, grounded, alive, becomes immune to the world's manipulations. He cannot be flattered into foolishness, nor insulted into insecurity. His sense of self comes from something deeper, something no one can give or take away. That's what makes him unstoppable. Not because he conquers others, but because he has conquered himself. His emotions obey him. His desires serve him. His mind, once scattered, now moves with purpose. And when life tests him, and it will, he doesn't flinch. He listens. He adjusts. And he continues. There is a stillness in him that nothing can shake. And it's not that he doesn't feel pain, or loss, or longing. It's that he no longer becomes those things. He watches them rise and fall. And through it all, he remains. In the marketplace of life, where everyone is bargaining, begging, shouting to be seen, he simply walks. Not faster, not louder, just clearer. And in that clarity, you begin to understand something. The less you cling, the more you can carry. The less you demand, the more life gives. The less you define yourself by externals, the more real you become. This is the essence of Stoic detachment, not absence, but essence. A return to what cannot be shaken. A home built not on sand, but on the bedrock of self-mastery. And it is there, in that quiet center, that you finally become who you were always meant to be. Not because life is perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. No longer swayed by every wind, no longer stirred by every wave, you become your own compass. Life continues to unfold in all its chaos and beauty, but now you move through it with precision, not panic. You've learned to let go of what you can't hold, and in doing so, you've grasped what truly matters: integrity, clarity, presence. You start noticing things others miss. The way silence speaks. The strength in restraint. The dignity in walking away. While others busy themselves with appearances, you begin to master essence. You don't need to convince the world of your value. Your life becomes the evidence. And slowly, without effort, people start turning to you. Not because you shout the loudest, but because you listen the deepest. Not because you fight every battle, but because you know which ones are worthy. They sense the weight of your presence, not because it's heavy, but because it's rooted. You've stopped trying to be impressive, and that's what makes you unforgettable. There is something sacred in your stillness now. A kind of wisdom that can't be taught, only earned, through fire, through silence, through solitude. It's the kind of wisdom that allows you to love someone and still let them go. That helps you endure failure without losing your self-respect. That teaches you that pain, too, is a teacher, if you're brave enough to sit with it. Because now you see that life was never about avoiding discomfort, but about becoming someone who cannot be undone by it. And as you deepen this practice, you find yourself less reactive to the temporary and more loyal to the eternal. Your values, your character, your purpose. You are no longer trying to be everything to everyone. You are simply becoming what is most true in you. And what is true needs no decoration. It speaks for itself. It stands even when the world shakes. It shines even when no one's watching. This is what detachment offers, not a life without passion, but a life where passion is clean, undistorted, liberated from need. You love more purely. You give more freely. You move more intentionally. And because of that, life responds. Not always with ease, but with alignment. The things meant for you begin to stay. The things not meant for you begin to fall away, quietly, without drama. You don't chase them. You don't mourn them. You simply make space. And in that space, something extraordinary grows. Peace. A peace that cannot be bought. A peace that cannot be stolen. A peace that no one else can give you, because you found it within.